You are live.
Good morning, y'all. Today is a continuation of Songs of the 8 Mahasiddhas. Now, I have been messing with a number of now published translations. When I first got that, there were no translations out there. And I got it in Tibetan. What I'm realizing is that in Tibetan, there appear to be a couple of different printings of this from which translators have worked. No other way to explain just how vastly different they are and the differences I find in my original. Now, my original is a hand copy, which is on, Western type paper, from a hand copy in Tibetan, which was eventually, back a couple of generations, from a printing, I think. Not sure. I got it from my teacher, he got it from his teacher, and so on it goes. And not everyone could get a hold of printed texts in those days. So I am seeing differences, occasionally in a word that's miswritten. In mine, where, oh dear, somebody thought that was a nga and it was a da. Handwritten will do that. So bear with me. I'm going to work with both James Lowe's translation, which I find, even though he's got a different order of text than in my text, a different order of songs, and a couple of other differences. There's a couple of bits in his that aren't in mine, and a couple of bits in mine that aren't in his, but not more than like a little paragraph. So this is closest. I'm going to work with that and from the Tibetan for you. So translators, bear with me. If you're working with a translation and not with an original Tibetan, there will be discrepancies. One tries as much as possible to have accuracy, especially in translation, especially in hand copying. However, it's all done by people. People are not perfect. So bear with me where translations get a little bit funny, and I will take time to answer some questions, but only on topic questions. I'm not going to answer your personal practice questions here. You got to catch me at a more appropriate time for that. I'm not going to answer all the odd things you've always wanted to know about Dharma. Catch me in the Q&A for that, where there's no specific subject. This is end practice Mahamudra, real Mahamudra, which is similar to real Dzogchen and radical Dzogchen. There is slight differences in the vocabulary used. Other than that, I haven't found a difference between completion stage Mahamudra and real Dzogchen, or what Keith calls radical Dzogchen. So that said, we're going to start. Chuku kunduzon bogombo yin, dorji sempagarab dorji dang. Shere singi bardu shin lebde, dedamazan tata tusum chi. Zogchen jupe lamala solo deb. Ergin pema junila solo deb. That was Dzogchen lineage. Next comes Chogchen lineage. Dorji chong chitilo narudang marpa mila gompo tsatsapa na pupadang palden drupa tsok kargilama namla solo deb. And next comes other lineages that have contributed to me. So that's personal. Here's where you put in the lineages you have practiced and found useful in your path. You might even put in the person who taught you to read. because without literacy, you couldn't have done any of this. Ochen lama namla solwa deb. Druchen lama namla solwa deb. Kaginuari lama namla solwa deb. Shakya lama namla solwa deb. Nyendu dang yundren lama namla solwa deb. Pakondu jang dang yerme pa gon garab dorji jin trat pa. Jeti dang nisume pa pa lama nam chitin te chong. The Rime movement began back in the later half of the 1700s and the 1800s back in Old Tibet. And it was a movement away from sectarianism, which had periodically caused problems in Tibet as Tibetan Buddhism did, as religions do in the hands of human beings, get political. And so there were messy occurrences. Yeah, we got into them too. It really, in my opinion, with what I have read of history, seems very important to keep your religion and spirituality quite separate from your politics. Otherwise, there's some big oopses historically, like Spanish Inquisition, Taliban, Christian Baptist Taliban. The Jews are up to it too now. I don't know what they're called. Jewish Taliban? At least they are in America. We see these extremist groups. You've probably got them in Israel. I just haven't been there to see them. Try to avoid mixing government and religion as much as possible, as it is a different kind of person with different goals that seems to get involved in both. Sorry, I was reading the news this morning. Yeah. Lots of religious oopses going on. To begin, moment. I thought I could see this just fine this morning, but apparently not. Is this helping? Sumbaja chantatam digdantra neni kunjab sanje mere kadan chanten tunen sonam chokchen mebang chihawi pa korwetala takwe semechi chalyang dagpe lani dram sok lang Jampache chonram na tongwe tra Nyamke tadak churchan tok tu jin. Nipanyamba Gomla Menkeni, Simgi Chuni Anga, Ime Wena, Dila Gom Changom Parchen Weni, Sumeyo Me Chirme, Me Tognam, Lama Yang Ja, Tongba Nidang Che Me Lale, Devandang Tetralaso, Angye Yela Che Weda Nilu. Twanami ne shin drang pe tong dan deng me tong dang che me tong me kang la shu ke yak nang me ta me waranga timba tu tang dang so pe sem me ro la je jing ge ten in ni lo rin me ni de nang ne nang jimba chan Nyunda Nigmato, Tombe Nang Lamani, Jeme Nima Yang Churne. Ninang Chang Jeme Bakcha, Lungpar Mechur, Arapreten Jeme Nang Dushi Churchong, Megene Ma Champaramne Chang Metong. Ne loki la chang nam la sing badang ne nin don la me sing ngom na golwe sum palam chu trowe min dag la sungi tang po chu chun yun nam la chak sing chak cheer ching wa cheer. So third, to transcend, to go past the oral teachings of Mahamudra. The certainty of all Buddhas is without trying, being guided by a pure guru. Awaken in this way to the one thing, one point to be known. As everything is within delusion, there is no perfection in awakening. And there is nothing to awaken to and no one to do the awakening. It is beyond partiality. As there is neither freedom nor non-freedom, this is the state of unchanging reality. The dynamic state of unchanging reality. If one truly awakens in this way, there is no need to ask others. When you actually see it, you're not going to be asking me, are we there yet, every couple of weeks. As everything is the clarity of Dharmakaya, the mental activity of rejecting and adopting does not occur. And there is neither meditation nor lack of meditation. No reliance on perceived appearance, no reliance on non-appearance. With no notion of action or actors, there is nothing to fixate on, nothing to fix. Free of the intellect's hopes and fears, all longing is left behind. in the certainty of all Buddhas, in the completion beyond attempting, in the thusness which does not come and go, and yet is never without dance and movement, without liveliness of aliveness. In that certainty of awareness, which is neither stillness nor moving, the hard work of collecting merits is complete. Mind without fear of cyclic existence and without hope for release from it. Having given up even the very least amount of effort, all phenomena arises in emptiness as emptiness, limitless like the sky. Desire, aversion, attachment, all dissolve. If you awaken here to the unchanging presence of how it is, as shown by your teacher, look, first you have the pointing out. And you look at what is being pointed at. And you get a glimpse. Of course, it doesn't last. Moon reflected in a mud puddle is not the moon, yet it is a glimpse of the moon. It is the idea of the moon. It is an analogy of the moon. It is an alliteration to the moon. Knowing this, follow the pointing finger. Don't stare at the finger. The person who points in such a way that you glimpse it for the first time. And you'll know. Your hair stands on end. There's a moment of hetewa beyond blankness. And then it's gone. And then you're right back where you were and you're going, what just happened? And then, through following instructions, you learn to do it without a teacher pointing for you in a moment. Again and again, you practice yourself noticing dancing stillness. Noticing beyond the beyond. You do not create it. You do not acquire it. You do not make it be so. You do not have to live up to it. It is not something you do. It is inherently and completely stable. And it is forever vitally dancing without anything moving the least little bit. This is what we call the dance of stillness, dancing stillness, where you cannot take extremes of stillness, shunyata, stillness, nirvana, or movement, impermanent, samsara, but you go right through the middle. It's called the middle way for a reason. And without grasping and trying to hide behind nirvana because you're scared of samsara, and without grasping and trying to hide and roll around in the entertainment of samsara because you're scared of nirvana and its emptiness, without grasping at either of these extremes, the middle way, that's what's being pointed at here. If you awaken to the unchanging presence of how it is, just that, as shown by your teacher, all your various memories and thoughts will dissolve within all-inclusive space, with consciousness not dwelling on objects. That doesn't say not noticing objects. There is nothing that says you can't notice a cup of coffee. Or anything that says that you should notice a cup of coffee. Movement slips by in its own way, like the white caps on the ocean. And yet the ocean never leaves its shores. It never goes anywhere. And yet it is never still. This is sometimes used as an analogy. Don't mistake the analogy for the reality. Don't mistake the moon glimpsed in a mud puddle for the great moon itself. With consciousness not dwelling on objects, one is free of all longing and attachment. Thus all phenomena are liberated in the state of uncontrived, unchanging presence. Do not think that because it is unchanging presence, uncontrived, unchanging presence, that it is still. Don't go make that second step. It is vital and alive with the sparkle of vitality that allows the infinite creativity of phenomena to occur. You're not getting rid of something that you have called samsara, and you're not acquiring something you didn't have called nirvana. You're learning first when you begin to do shine without an object, after you're done with the pebble. At that point, you do something called rushen, separating, corde rushen, separating samsara from nirvana. It's done differently in Dzogchen, different methods. Here in done at a much later stage. Here in Mahamudra, it's done really early on, right as you do shine with an object. Here's where you spend a lot of time, like a year. If you do this right, the rest is going to be easy. So put your time into it. Put your time here. Build your good foundation. Find out with absolute certainty, without having to ask me or anybody else, because you're sure by your own experience, what moves and what doesn't. What is stillness? Shine without an object is resting in stillness. Your attention point focuses on stillness, and then you expand into that and rest in stillness as stillness. Shine without an object. For that to grow up, you must first, corde rushen, separate samsara from nirvana by determining what moves and what doesn't. Because eventually you're going to have to get up out of shine because you're going to have to pee, at the very least. So that's the first step. Once you are sure, once it is absolute, don't jump the gun here. Don't assume you know the difference just because you can think of it in words. Feel it. Perceive it. And then, once you are absolutely sure what moves and what does not, it's time for you to have the teachings on dancing stillness. And we're talking about that right here. Unattached to anything, one is free of stains such as pride. Devoted and well guided by the holy, one desists from all mental activity and is without stain or doubt. With knower and known purified, the essential phenomena is directly revealed. If one has not awakened to the unchanging presence of Mahamudra, then always under the power of duality, one will be attached to everything. Many kinds of dull, obtuse thoughts and ideas will arise continuously, and not resting in the unerring truth, one will wander in samsara. Let me see that in Tibetan. Yumechiyan Metok Nang La Mayang. What this is pointing at, those words in English came out awfully absolute. Not the translator's fault, the language's fault. English is a whole language of is's and isn'ts. It's like this but not that. So where we're going here is beyond duality is not singularity. If you grasp singularity and you reject duality, you're having a oops. If mind and phenomena in the infinite vastness of the sky have no reality, then meditation and the object of meditation are both not real. Freed from the evil of trying. All the little tiny tryings. Give it up. Empty, limitless, timeless. Like space itself. You do not have to reject your desire and attachment. There is nothing to hold on to there. All the cravings, with its craver, become less than a giggle. Words of praise and words of complaint, the song of birds in the bushes. Without grasping or rejecting, leave it be. Before I start the next chapter, translators, we are on page 25 more or less, kinda sorta, in James Lowe, and I don't know where we are in the others, because keeping them all open drives me nuts. Are there questions? There should be here, because this is a really difficult thing to express.
One question we have is from one of our Spanish viewers. It says, you yourself said that it took you many years to see the nature of mind, the space of the mind. Can you comment on that?
Oh, hell yeah. I was a terrible student. Poor Rinpoche. I really wish he could have done better than have me. But that was the karma. I think he also wished he could have done better than have me. I was troublesome, stupid, and never quite understood anything. Took me forever. In fact, I kept trying so hard. And translating, and expected to translate his words, but not understanding what they were pointing at. Years. And finally, it came to me that I would never understand this, that I lacked the karma to get it. So I decided to simply stop practicing so much and trying so hard and work on my Tibetan to be the best translator I could, and hope maybe somebody else got it from me changing the language of his words, even if I didn't understand them. And I gave up. And then it all made sense. Not in an instant, but over months. It was a combination, I believe, of not trying and bodhicitta. Without the bodhicitta, not trying doesn't work. Because you have to keep going, but you can't be doing it for yourself. Bodhicitta as it is known in the created bodhisattva, bodhisattva around here, where you do things for others. Careful, women who've been acculturated to that. That doesn't mean lack of boundaries. It means you choose to put forth your energies to aid others in what they choose to want. Be careful, men. You'll want to choose for them what they should want. Don't do that. Be careful, women. You'll want to give yourself away to your detriment. I'm talking to Western culture here, male and female, slightly different acculturated. Males, you're acculturated to try to give people what you think they should have. Oops. Women, you're acculturated to give them beyond reason to your own detriment, where there's nothing left to keep going, and then resent it later. Oops. Try not to fall into cultural traps around bodhisattva. But it is only through bodhisattva that Mahamudra is possible. You can't do it without. It just isn't going to happen, because there needs to be striving, but there can't be striving for self. It's not striving, it's... See, when you strive, when you try to get enlightened, you're going, give me enlightenment. That won't work. And you give up, but you continue the path for the sake of others, you're going, enlightenment. Now, what's the difference between digpa, cause for ignorance, and gewa, cause for enlightenment? Digpa. Gewa. You see how that works? So that's why, without falling into your problematic cultural parameters around bodhisattva, you cannot get Mahamudra without it. Just ain't gonna work. If you suspect that your bodhisattva is meh, work on it. You can use Tantra. Both Chenrezig and Purba are excellent for bodhisattva. They're flip sides of the same yidam. Peaceful side, fierce side. 37 practices. There's a student-led discussion group on that. Excellent for bodhisattva. Read texts about it. Also excellent for bodhisattva. But you will have to transcend the ego aspect of being a hero in order to go past the mind-made bodhisattva into the completely natural state of the real one. Any other questions here?
If one wishes to start practicing Shine with an object and is following these teachings, is it as simple as taking a pebble and concentrating, focusing on it as best as possible?
Just about. If you will go to YouTube or Facebook, I have recorded the teachings of Mahamudra with the details of how to sit, how to focus your eyes, where to put the pebble, how big should the pebble be, what kind of pebble, all those little details that people tend to get hung up on and wonder about, just to save me infinite emails with each one asking one of those details. Pebble should be about the size of the end of your thumb, not my thumb. It should be smooth, innocuous, and unimportant. An very ordinary pebble. You can buy a bag of them at Dollar Tree for use in planters and things. Go down to the sea and the beach and pick one up. if you're near it, or a river. It's not the pebble, it's what you do with it. Learning to relax without a lot of descriptions of what's going to happen, with you finding out for yourself what's going to happen, is important. So what you want to do is sit down with that pebble and follow the instructions as far as physical position, and rest your mind on that pebble. And every time you get distracted, bring your attention back to that pebble by using the tool of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not a meditation, it's a meditation tool in Tibetan systems. And you just sit there with that pebble. And then I'll see you in Mahamudra group. Oh, I've been asked to say here, for those of you who want to sign up in a group, don't email Jan. She's getting too many emails. Go to my website, fill out the form, and sign up for the group that you want to be in. One with me, and as many of the student-led different groups as you like. That said, if you are not good with English, you may contact your translator for assistance. I know some of the Russians have been having a great deal of difficulty with the English of signing up. Other questions?
Yes. Hang on, let me get it in front of me again. At what time do we need a teacher when we get, quote, out of the box, quote? Isn't it like, yeah, now I get it? Do we need a teacher at that point to stabilize things?
Oh, yes. You need a teacher. My teacher never lost his need for his teachers, nor have I lost my need for mine. That doesn't mean they have to sit on you and hatch you like an egg for the rest of your life. Sometimes a teacher dies before a student. Getting a hole in the box is pretty easy, kicking a hole. But it's not actually crawling through the hole out of the box. That's an analogy which seems to reject the inside of the box. You actually flip the box through the fifth dimension and turn it inside out. It's a better analogy. There is never not a need for a teacher. I spend a great deal of time in Dream Yoga getting teachings, since my teachers, most of them are not physically accessible to me. Although I'll be seeing some of my good friends and hopefully a few teachers that I honor when I'm over in India. Next question.
There's a question about the relationship of the body in all this. Let me find it. Should anything special happen if you feel physical responses to teachings or the Dharma or practice?
Well, first of all, make sure you're not having a heart attack and your foot has not fallen into the fireplace. When you have physical sensations, do check them and make sure they are not informing you of a problem that requires solving. Rinpoche had a student who decided the pain in his legs while sitting in he sat in a beautiful full lotus. And in his 50s and 60s, he continued to do so whenever Rinpoche came to visit. He may not have done so as much in between times, and it hurt. And throughout the full hour and a half, 2-hour teachings, he sat there in a full lotus and blew out both his meniscus tendons and had to have surgery. Oops, he sat and ignored the pain. He did not Rinpoche laughed like hell when he told him. Rinpoche thought it was the funniest thing, Tibetan humor. You do something with lack of common sense and all they're going to do is laugh at you. So physical sensations should be checked. If it's sensations in your heart chakra and it involves shortness of breath, pressure, and pain running down into your right arm or up into your jaw, please go see a cardiologist. If it's the tendons in your knees, periodically pay attention to that pain and use a meditation sash to hold your knees up in a position that is not as painful. Use cushions, change your seat in some way so that it works for you. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. Do not abandon your common sense here. Other than that, there will be all sorts of weird little sensations. I always used to get an itch right here whenever I sat to meditate for years. Eventually, whatever karma that was wore out. I used to think something was crawling inside my nose. Well, not anymore. Who knows what that was? It wasn't important. I checked. There wasn't anything in there. I hadn't accidentally got a leech up my nose like poor Leshy. If you're in India, never put your head down and drink from the pool. Pick up the water in your hand and take it to your mouth, okay? Leeches. The last place you want one is up your nose. That was a bugger to get out. So there's my answer to physical sensations. Check them out. And then if nothing needs fixing on a physical level to maintain the health and well-being of your body, ignore them. Leave them be. Let them come and go as they will. Next question.
How does one distinguish letting be, doing nothing, from an attitude of laziness in practice?
That is a damn good question. It's easy to fool yourself. Been there, done that. And yet, for as long as you are not sure, keep going, keep trying. If you stop trying too soon, it will revert to laziness. And you'll do yourself a mischief. Better to stop trying too late than too soon. If you stop trying a little bit too late, well, meh. You lost a month in the process. Who cares? In fact, there isn't really a too late. Now, in Tantra, if your path is as a Tantrika, you don't stop trying. For as long as there is a trier, your desire to stop is laziness. It's not that you stop. The ain't. It's not you stop trying. It's that the trier is not separate from what is tried, so there is no trying involved. So if you feel like there's someone there to try, try. Now, even if you are a very long-term and great meditator, there will be days. Giggle at them. There are days when you say, yep, I think it's time to do a little on-purpose practice. Even though no one said that, It is what is occurring, and you don't block it or stop it. I think I'm stopping making sense. Next question.
One moment.
If there is one, otherwise
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
going back to the text.
There's a couple more here. Is it good to see duality as an illusion, or is there also a risk of clinging to this particular perception?
Honey, you can cling to anything. All perceptions are clingable. I wouldn't worry about it. Seeing anything as anything is a distortion. Everything is in and of itself as it isn't anything else. And no analogy is complete or real. Next question.
One moment here. Bit of slowness. Okay. If one has not received pointing out instructions, does one need to get them before making progress from Shine with an object?
Say that again.
If one has not received pointing out instructions, is it necessary to get them before making any progress from Shine with an object?
Yes. You need instructions to move on to Shine without an object. Otherwise, you're going to make up an object and Shine at it, which is not the point. You really can't do this from a book, Tibetan Dharma. The books help, but they don't stand alone. Someone who has already walked that path. All of the books, all of the text, with the exception of Words of My Precious Teacher, which has been written already unfolded, are folded fractals. They're like the teacher's lecture notes. There's a whole bunch of oral passed down involved in them that nobody ever manages to write down in the texts. Oh, I've seen them try. Some of the Westerners try to do that. Some of the Tibetans try to do that. But there are so many ways to misunderstand words that I don't think it works. I think you need a teacher to go, you're leaning to the left. Oops, now you're leaning to the right. Otherwise, you'll just find all sorts of ideas to embroil yourself in. Next question.
For those of us in Tantra, what are we supposed to do when we dissolve the visualization? Is that traction? It keeps changing for me.
It should be anything from Shine without an object to Trekcha or Rochik. However, you do not make it become anything. You go there to Shine without an object and let that mature of its own accord. You cannot get the apple to ripen more quickly by shaking the tree. Won't work. So at that dissolution point, you slide into stillness, no thing, and you relax there, allowing it to expand as it will. When you become distracted from that and start point focusing on thises and that's, it's time to dedicate the merits and get up and do the next thing. In Tantra. Next question.
Is it true that completing 360 hours of Shine, both with and without an object, and integrating it with Lacton later is essential for its proper practice? How to progress?
There is no specific hourly requirement. Each person is different and has spent a different amount of time in past lives doing this. The more you did it in past lives, the faster it's going to go in this life. So, what you want to do is sit in Shine with an object until it's easy and feels good. Move on to Shine without an object until it's easy and feels good. Do Rushan, Korde Rushan, separating samsara from nirvana, separating moving from stillness, while in Shine without an object, until you're absolutely sure, without having to ask your teacher, did I get it or did I not? Am I doing it right or am I not? Then request from your teacher the instructions on the yoga of dancing stillness, Trultra Naljor. This is the Mahamudra path according to the 16th Karmapa, Karma Kargu lineage. There are other Mahamudra teachings, other minor lineages within the Kargu line and the Shakya line, which may have slightly different orders. This teaching was, this how-to teaching of Mahamudra was received by Wangda Rinpoche in person when he and Zigar Rinpoche, when Zigar Rinpoche was a very young tulku, went to visit the 16th Karmapa and requested the teachings on Mahamudra, and he gave them the entire path. Later on, Rinpoche gave it to me. Much later on, long after I had done Dzogchen forever. Because some people will thrive better. But he gave it to me just about as he was starting to send me out to teach. Some people will thrive better by the method of Mahamudra than by the method of Maha'ati. I couldn't do Mahamudra to save my life. He started me on Mahamudra. It didn't work. So he switched me to Maha'ati. That eventually worked. So it's just a matter of your personal karma, what you've practiced in the past. Remember, you've had infinite lives, your mind stream, which is not as singular as you think it is, what with your biome being part of it and all, and you and your biome all dying at different times and coming and going, and somebody breathing on you and some of their biome getting into you. Just even in a Western scientific sense, it's not as singular and separate as you think it is. But anyway, it's been going on, flowing along there, like a current in the ocean, with bits of flosam drifting in and out, for as long as the ocean has been. Analogy. And so, you have done everything at least once. Gee whiz, guys, you've been a great yogi once before. You almost went all the way. And then, oops. Gee, guys, you've been a mass murderer and a child abuser. You've killed 1,000 innocents. Oops. All of it. The worst person you can think of. You've been that. I remember 2,000 years back, constipated fucking prig, miserable sod. You'll come sometime and I'll teach you how to do the memories. It's a Galupa practice. Remember, I'm Rime. How to get your memories. Yeah, there's a retreat for it. But you better get good at Chenrezig before you do it. Hopefully, with the digressions, that has answered your question. There's no set hourly. Not even really a set number. You know, they say in Nundro you need to do 100,000 Vajrasattvas, 100,000 prostrations. That's the average it takes for a young monk to get it to work. Average. Some people less, some people more. I'm a terrible student. I did my first Nundro all the way through and going to my teacher, oh, give me the good stuff now. I finished my Nundro. He looks me up and down with this terribly sad look on his face and says, I'm so sorry, it didn't work. Do it again. I paid better attention the second time. One more question.
Okay, one moment. Slow today. It's a question about the yi, and what can it tell us as we look around for stillness and movement?
The yi is a sense organ. You have 6 senses. You have your eyes, which see, your ears, which hear, your nose, which smells, your tongue, which tastes, and your hands and your skin, which are tactile. Also, you have your yi, which feels feelings. All those neurotransmitters, there's this big organ around your gut, a whole bunch of neural tissue. That's the yi. It's kind of in the solar plexus, lowish. It's not right up here where, you know, your heart is. It's down like right about at the bottom of your sternum. But it's the size of your hand. I mean, it's a good size. That's your yi. It feels. What do you use it for? Having feelings. I'm not sure I understand that question, Nyando.
So,
what do you think he's asking?
I think what they're asking is, as you're, I guess, practicing and looking for that dancing stillness, is there any indication you can get from the yi that you're actually perceiving?
Yeah, there's a progression in how you do that. First, you look to understand it with thought, because Westerners really need to do that, or they'll keep thinking about it and they can't put it down till they feel like they understand it. So you might as well let yourself indulge in that until you're done, even though it's not useful. Then you feel for it with your feelings. You want to feel stillness. From your feelings, you want to directly perceive. And then you need to transcend perception. Look at how you experience the world around you, phenomena. You have a sensation in a sense organ. You interpret that sensation as flower. Your eyes are having a sensation. You will interpret the sensation in your eyeballs, the colors and shapes, from the rods and cones sent in puffs of chi through the tsa in your brain, where you interpret this shape as glasses. Once you have interpreted, you've stuck a name to it, a thingness, an object, a known object. Then you're going to think about it. It's going to have connotations too. Do you like those glasses? Do you not like those glasses? Do you think they're too big, too small? Do you like the color, not like the color? You're going to have a little conversation with yourself about the object of your sensations. And once you've told yourself some stories about the object, you're going to have feelings about the stories. And that blah, blah, clump, entanglement of perception, sensory sensation, story about the sensation, labeling it, naming it, and then talking to yourself about it. Feelings about the story. Combined is a perception. You will have to transcend perception to find dancing stillness, because all perceptions are moving. They are not permanent, since they are a clump of thoughts, feelings, and sensations, all of which move. So perceiving it, step off. And that's enough explanations, because I don't think they're going anywhere. Let's return to the text. Nipa nyamlan gompa minda ki semgichuni long la di in mewane. If mind and phenomena in the infinite vastness of the sky have no reality, then meditation and the object of meditation are both not real. Remain without distraction and without focus on anything. Don't grab anything. Just rest there. Don't be distracted and run about from thing to thing. Don't grab something to keep yourself from running about from thing to thing. Letting go, releasing, is both a repeated doing and a not done. Again and again, let go of anything you find yourself inclining to grab. While relaxing enough that there is no grabber or grabbee. Transcend the subtle concept of emptiness itself. Uncreated mind. Simply don't make anything up. Free of any extremes, let the mind do what it does. The natural state is not static. It is not stillness, nor is it moving, for no things move. It is not stillness, for no thing is still. It is a dynamic balance. Koan. Lama Yeshe used to love koans. He gave me a beautiful one. Fits right here. So guys, what do you think? Is the second moment of enlightenment going to be the same as the first moment of enlightenment? Or is it going to be different? These are the pith instructions of the practice. The transmission of direct meditation. Second, infinite, open, vast expanse of meditation is such as this, word for word. This is cannot be applied in the space of the empty phenomena of mind, and so within it there is no duality of meditation and something to meditate on, no separation between meditation and meditated on. When you're doing shine without an object, there's a you, meditator, doing an action, meditating on some very subtle concept of nothing, non-object, emptiness, stillness. That has to mature a while. You don't want to drink the wine when it's first made, or eat the new cheese when you realize what it'll be like in a year or 6 months. Let it age, let it mature. A mature cheddar is ever so much better than a red, now made one. Rest unwaveringly in this state, without thoughts of existence or non-existence. Emptiness unborn, beyond intellect and free of extremes. Emptiness and not emptiness. Do not grasp any such state of mind. With all such mental creations, you will not settle in the truth of how it is, but will be far away. Do you understand this? Emptiness and not emptiness. Ises and isn'ts aren't. Don't grab any state of mind. Don't grab enlightenment. Don't grab emptiness. Don't grab samsara. Don't grab bliss. Let go. Leaving and not leaving the non-self dances through time. Yar and yart. When you grab the idea of yar, oops. But then so many of you I see in my classes have grabbed the idea that you aren't. Oops. Would you please stop grabbing on to the ises and isn'ts? They all do you, they all do you a mischief. Emptiness unborn, beyond intellect and free of extremes. With all such mental creations, you will not settle in the truth of how it is, but it will be far away. Neither releasing nor grasping, be still like a corpse. Rest in the state of relaxation, without estimating whether it is empty or not. This is all Trultra Naljor teachings, where he is right now. Without resting or not resting. Let your mind free without direction, free of the mind that discards and holds on. Be as mindless as a corpse. I sometimes wonder where he got all these words. Neither releasing nor grasping, be still like a corpse. Simply remain in the natural state of awareness. The appearance of duality and habitual tendencies dissolve. From their own side, it is not an action you will perform. Aware of the thusness of how it is, you will dwell in this state. The subtle traces of the characteristics of dualistic appearance will quickly vanish. When you practice Trultra Naljor, and you do not grab the moving or the stillness, when you remain in a relaxed state where there is neither the grasping of the idea of a practitioner, nor a practice being done, nor a goal to be achieved by it, that's when all the karma and the habitual tendencies will unravel themselves and quickly vanish. If you don't relax in that way, the characteristics become agitated and clingy. It flops around a lot. And you will think, my life is in turmoil as a result of this practice. It was fine until I started doing it. And now my life is in turmoil since I started practicing this Trultra Naljor. Now, you're having a slight accident. You're not actually relaxing. And so your habitual tendencies are jittering at you. Your way of seeing things. If you have a paranoid streak and your way of seeing things is that stuff is out to get you, everything's going to seem to be aiming for your ass. If you have a abusee streak, everything's going to try to abuse you. These are your tendencies jittering at you. Your reality is the reality you're experiencing is your interpretation of the physical sensations you're having. If I have a sensation of pain, I can interpret that as illness, as a cramp, as a cardiac problem, as a beginning bone cancer. There's all these ways I could interpret it depending on my paranoia levels. Your reality experience is your interpretation. Look at your most recent bout of office politics, or Sangha politics if you're in a Sangha that does those. I'm going to thwap my Sangha if I catch him at it. No politics. But try to remember your most recent bout of office politics. It wasn't really the way you thought it was. Even demons will succumb to this realization. That's how you get rid of them. If you're going to extract a demon from somebody's house, you better be able to do this, or it'll bite you in the tendencies. If you do not abide in the state of awakening and are distracted by concepts, you will not discard the subtle traces of the concepts of dualistic experience. Not only that, they're going to jitter. They will appear to get worse. Just as a person with dim eyesight may know that they have an eye problem, but if in fact there is no eye disease to be cured, there will be no dim appearance cleared away. That analogy is not one of my favorites. If you look at the Impressionistic painters, it was started by a guy with really bad eyesight who painted what he saw. Later it became a style. I'm not even going to try with that analogy. To construct an idea about how it is and to desire meditative experiences to occur in accord with that. To meditate having taken the truth of thusness as an object. These are all mistakes. And this is a big one that everybody gets stuck in. You have an idea how it's supposed to be. And so you try to get that by meditating. The number of people who try to dissolve themselves because they think that they should be non-self. It's like, get that out. That's not how it works. It won't work if you first get an idea and then you meditate to experience that idea. You're going to go down some strange side river into all sorts of weird nyams, and it's really not going to be effective. Nyando, could I get a refill? It seems to be another cup of coffee morning. When the appearance of duality and habit patterns remain due to your choosing them, one or another, simply know. Okay. I've got the simply knowing that you've got cataracts is not going to improve your vision. There's the analogy. You actually have to go through the process of getting the cataracts removed to be able to see clearly. Just knowing about them doesn't help. Fixating the mind on the natural state will not liberate because it's a fixation. It's a this but not that. It's a grasping. Give up holding in mind the idea of meditation. That doesn't mean don't sit on the cushion. Sit. Just sit there. Relax. Don't entertain your thoughts. Don't reject them either. Adjust the speed. Allow all the flutterbys and flitterbits to flutter by and flitterbit. Do not cease or do not attempt to restrain them or cause them to cease. Do not follow them and grasp them or entertain them either. Relax. Do not try, do not refrain from trying. If you follow those exact instructions again and again, until that is easy, meditation will naturally arise of its own accord. And it will arise without separating itself into the components of doer, doing, and done to. And so it will be the true meditation of non-meditation. You just gotta not get all fancy about it. Pith instructions, or the third part of the pith, which is also sopa. Dakla sungi tang pocho. As the day is divided into three parts, morning, noon, and eve, this is the evening instructions. Attachment and desire for agreeable object sensations is what traps you in samsara. Such a simple thing. I want this. I want my coffee. I want a cookie. Constantly chasing. I want to get my laundry folded. I want to go take down the Christmas decorations finally. I want this to change this, to fix that, to do this. Chasing your tail traps you. When your focus is jumping from bit to bit of want. From beginningless time, you have fled your fears and pursued your desires. Now, as a practitioner, as a meditator, you flee samsara and pursue nirvana. How is this different? Longing and attachment for favorable situations becomes the causes of binding. All unpleasant and adverse situations are true attainment, since adverse situations clarify a yogi's experience. So when the shit hits the fan, it's okay to scream, but it is not a bad sign. There's this Western rumor going around about karma, that if bad things happen to you, it's because you did something wrong. You've done everything wrong between beginningless time and now. Don't worry about it. Shit karma happens. People think if they get cancer, it's because they didn't have enough faith in enough purity, or they got too stressed, or most things have multiple causes. Most causes have multiple results. It's not friggin' linear. It's not like this action. I pick up my hand, I wave it back and forth. It's not like that action leads to a specific reaction. This action leads to all sorts of results throughout the universe. The flutter of a butterfly in Borneo affects the weather over here. All these doings have results, but the results are multiple from a single doing. And many doings combine together to create a result. All sorts of factors. And it's not just your karma. You need to have the karma. You need to have the group karma. You need to be born in a form where that karma could manifest. I could very well have the karma for prostate cancer, to die of prostate cancer. Can't get me this time, I ain't got a prostate. You see? Understanding that there's all these factors. So don't assume that this causes that. Okay? Do understand the difference in feel between Digpa and Gewa. The tight, stressful constriction of Digpa. The great-hearted, open-hearted, joyful relaxation of Gewa. Since adverse situations clarify a yogi's experience, therefore do not reject the negative experiences, but knowing thusness, protect that within them. What the heck did that actually say? Stop chasing pleasure. The limitless realization is not tied to phenomena. Continue until you have fully resolved it. Got it. I'm just going to put that down. Sometimes that's a little too wordy for me. The limitless realization is not tied to phenomena. So it doesn't mean you're doing it right if everything gets smooth. It doesn't mean you're doing it right if everything gets bumpy. Phenomenas, it do that. You all just leave it be to do that. But don't get your ego all caught up in. It tells you whether you're a good person or not. And your feelings are a phenomena. It's okay to feel fucked up. It's okay to be shitting bricks. You're sweating bricks because you're scared. It's okay to experience anger, jealousy, avarice. The point is that you don't code them, you don't grab the experiences, you don't reify the experiences. But you don't want to shove away the feelings. You don't want to draw on emptiness as a hide behind so that you don't have to feel, so that you can avoid pain. It doesn't work like that. Whatever phenomena occurs neither supports nor destroys the limitless realization. So continue to allow phenomena to phenomenize as it will until you have fully resolved its nature. Grasping the concept that all phenomena is a dream, which is a certain retreat called Becoming at Ease with Illusion. There's a book on it. There's a retreat done on it occasionally. It's not really like that. It's not really not like that. How we love to grab the extremes of is and isn't. Do not give up until self and all others realize ultimate truth. Buddha is not a singular word. It is a plural. It's not Buddhas. Buddha is a plural word. There is no singularity anywhere to be found. All beings, we are all of us in this together. And for the sake of these infinite beings, in your great certainty, show others how to see, carrying the kind teacher on the crown of your head or in your heart. There is no singular enlightenment. There is arhat, snuffing yourself out like a candle. No more suffering. You just blew yourself out. You're gone. Your mind stream ended. Doable. There's instructions for it. Even though you are no longer a singularity, you're still a participant, as bits and dribs and drabs of everything else. This is why the real Bodhisattva will make this clear to you, that there is no such thing as individual enlightenment. True enlightenment is you and all others. The ultimate Bodhisattva occurs True Mahamudra is without attachment to any state of mind. Do not grasp happiness, peace of mind, wisdom, clarity. Those are all nyams. They come and go. Do not reject pain, confusion, sorrow, fear, anger. Live. In all of it as all of it without grasping any of it. For the true Mahamudra is without attachment to any state of mind. And all experience can be learned from. What is seen in this very moment is sufficient unto itself. Just this, just as it is, without it being any better in the next moment. Transcend practice, emptiness, perseverance. Be free of hoping for results. I myself have rooted out the demon of isnesses, of things. This is Birwapa speaking. Questions?
One moment. Okay, here we go. Are Rochik and Sopa the same thing?
No. One is Mahamudra. One is Mahati. One starts with an R. One starts with an S. They also refer to different phenomena. Rochik refers to one taste. The non-differentiation between doer, doing, and deed. Sopa refers to the way thoughts arise and vanish. Naturally, spontaneously, and without any effort on your part. Next question. If there is one.
Yes, there is. Is there a point where letting go isn't required anymore? Does my question even make sense?
Yes, there is such a point when there's no one to let go of anything. How could you let go? But you won't be there then. Okay? Next question.
If you've had a glimpse of the nature of mind, do you need to go on remembering?
Not that glimpse. You need to allow the next glimpse and the next one to occur. They're all the same, they're all subtly different. Trying to get that glimpse back is futile. Your next glimpse will be subtly different, and as you continue with your practice, creating conditions for glimpses to arise again and again, they will deepen and mature. Next question.
Okay. It's being somewhat slow today. Okay, here we go. So I should sit and let everything happen, and even when I don't let everything happen, it's still a part of the happening, like an infinite regression where we cut at the root.
I think the answer to what you're trying to say is, yeah. Stop putting it in words and just do it. You're doing it right. Next question.
I have been doing meditation for some time now. I'm seeing where I can't protect myself from other people's energies. What meditation practice is helpful?
Why would you want to protect yourself from other people's energies? You're all mixed together anyway. It's not like you're separate from them. You're made out of their energies. If you didn't have any of their energies, you wouldn't even be there. Your entire personality is made of everyone you've ever had a conversation with, every book you ever read, every movie you ever saw, and the commercials. That's all you are. A clump of other people's energies. That's all they are, too. Your question is a moot point. Why on earth would you want to protect yourself from being yourself? Next question.
Earlier you mentioned that Mahamudra was a practice that didn't work for you, and the question is, what about it didn't click?
Couldn't do Shine to save my life. Could not relax enough to hold still there. Just wasn't gonna happen. That's what didn't work for me. I couldn't do that pebble. That pebble drove me nuts. I couldn't stop making up stories about that pebble. I just couldn't shut up. No how. Next question.
Don't think we have more questions on this part of the teaching.
Okay. Then let us just finish up to the next bit. It starts there. Recognize the unity of that from which samsara and nirvana arise, without becoming duality. This is dancing stillness. That from which samsara and nirvana arise is stillness, is dancing stillness. They arise and dissolve into that, just like in sopa, the way the thoughts arise and dissolve into that. Same thing. Did I do this last bit? Awareness has the purity of the ground. Therefore it is known as perfect Buddha. Awareness, Rigpa. When phenomena and intellect are brought to cessation, this is what is called nirvana. Don't grab the end of thought. Don't grab the end of the arisings, the moving, the intellect. Don't reject it. Don't shove it away. Uncontrived and unchanging, complete liberation from discarding and gaining. The results of the practice, the Buddha's perfect awareness, The end of labeling, fixating, and naming of phenomena is called the peace of Nirvana. When you stop trying to do something with it, to fix it, to describe it, to talk to yourself about it. Uncontrived, unchanging. Give up all attainings and be free. And I think that is where we're going to go to today. We have a little bit more Bilwapa and on to Napupa, who is fairly short, and then Machepa. I think in here Talopa is next. Yeah, so his text is in a slightly different order from my text, but that's okay, it can do that. Thank you for joining me. Whatever your practice is, keep practicing until you have utterly lost the practicer without trying to get rid of yourself. Don't shove. Don't grasp non-self. This has to happen naturally and spontaneously as it does. As Westerners, y'all really like to understand what's going on. We know this. But talking to yourself too much about your practice is detrimental. It queers it. It solidifies things that shouldn't be solid. It makes this into that and separates is and isn't. So the best you can do is simply to practice without telling yourself stories about it. Stories like, are we there yet? Am I doing it right? I had this experience. I didn't get enough experiences. Gee, they got all those experiences and nothing's happening for me. Nya, 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 nya. Would ya, if you want to talk about the weather, talk about politics, talk about your favorite book or TV show or movie. But please, all of you, stop talking about your practice to yourself. It doesn't help. Relax, and wherever your practice is in this very moment, do that for as long as there's anyone to do so. And it will continue to do itself when no one does it. And that is the dynamic balance of the practice of non-practice. Ge wandi nyur duda che chi sala go parshu. If a translator, if you do not hear this in English because it is being translated, please support your translators. There's a page on the website. You can find their PayPal buttons or otherwise, depending on what country they're in. They're all volunteers. If you want them to keep doing it, support them by making an offering or sending a thank you in some way. Even if it's just words because you have no money, send them a thank you. It matters. It makes them feel better, and then they'll keep doing it. It's a lot of work to translate. So don't forget them. Let's see, what groups do we have coming up this week?
Mahamudra and Tantra. Tantra is first on Monday.
Okay, Tantra Monday if you're in Tantra.
And Friday for Mahamudra.
And Friday is Mahamudra. Okay, and that's this week, and then next weekend I think is one of those fun Q&A things where you just get to play and see whatever you want to know, and we'll just play with all that because I find it fun too. You guys come up with some of the best questions. Anyway, thank you, and I'll see you again soon. We are complete.
Hang on. Okay.